The Extra Point with Ryan Justice is sponsored by The Phone Medic. For the best in cell phone, tablet, or laptop repairs, The Phone Medic is the only choice for you. The Phone Medic also offers gaming PCs and laptops for both gamers and everyday users. Visit one of the 3 Phone Medic locations in Amarillo, Canyon, and their new location in Lubbock today. Hello, football fans! Welcome to The Extra Point with Ryan Justice.
Week 1, all said and done, ladies and gentlemen. What a week. What an opening week for the National Football League it was. Hello, everyone. My name is Ryan Justice, and welcome to The Extra Point. Man, I'm still in awe. There was so much that happened for week 1. So many great games, so many great moments, some questions answered, some questions come up that we didn't think would come up. Man, there is a lot to get to as far as week 1 goes. Right now, I'm going to bring in my co-host, the one and only Andrew Martinez. Andrew, you had a good night last night.
Man, you know, there are a few given things in life, death, taxes, and Aaron Rodgers losing to the San Francisco 49ers. Those are the things you can't expect every year until the end of time. It's great to see. You know, I think we had a great night, you know, and we made the most of it for sure with Christian McCaffrey getting hurt and, you know, people stepping up. I thought it was a great night.
Man, yeah, no, a great week 1 all around, but especially for your San Francisco 49ers. I know how that had to be satisfying. Before we get started, guys, we want to make sure you hit the like, share, subscribe button, get the word out, get the Extra Point a little bit of love on that like, share, and subscribe button. If you're over on Twitch, get the follow button going. We want to hit that 50 subscriber mark so that way we can give you guys some extra content on game days, maybe some extra content on off game days, some updates, fantasy, things like that. We got a lot of things that we're kind of tossing around against the wall. So definitely want to get that subscriber count up over on Twitch. Also want to thank my sponsor, the Phone Medic of Amarillo, Canyon, and Lubbock. Shout out to Gabe at all of those locations. If you have any tech repair that needs to be done, if you're looking for a gaming PC, laptop, tablet, phone, console, whatever you guys need, Gabe's going to have it at the Phone Medic of Amarillo, Canyon, and Lubbock. So we'll go ahead and get started. This is Hot Topics, so we're going to kind of look at some of the big things coming out of this weekend. First and foremost, about an hour before kickoff, the bomb dropped. Dak Prescott gets paid. We had that as our buy or sell last week. That is this going to be the last year with Dak Prescott? That question got answered very quickly.
Yeah, it did. I mean, you know, they could have waited to the most last second, you know, to have that happen. But yeah, he's getting paid. He's going to hang out in Dallas for a while, and we're going to see what they can make of it. You know.
No, yeah, I mean, and he's there. How's it going, Hunter? Thanks for tuning in on YouTube. But yeah, we're gonna see how Dak handles it, and he handled it very well. He got paid, and then he went out and handled the Cleveland Browns. But he's gonna be there. I believe it was a 5-year, $240 million contract, 231 of it guaranteed, which surpasses Deshaun Watson for the most money guaranteed. And they're pulling behind Dak Prescott. Jerry Jones even came out and said, you know what happens when we make somebody the highest paid player in the league? We win Super Bowls. I think that's still a pretty bold claim, but it is good that they have their franchise quarterback there long term.
Yeah, I agree. I think, you know, there's a lot of moving pieces that they're going to have to, you know, make happen around Dak. But now, I mean, again, they put the flag in the ground. He's going to be their quarterback, and he's going to take them to the promised land.
No, yeah, they're definitely going to be, you know, they're building around Dak, and now the question is, okay, Parsons is coming up soon. You got Dak, you got Lamb. How can they pull off this trifecta with so much guaranteed money going to Dak Prescott?
Yeah, I think it's going to be a lot of, you know, maneuvering and, you know, see if people are, you know, kind of what we've seen like in San Francisco, you know, hey, are you willing to take less this year, maybe some more on the back end to maybe make it happen now? We'll see. We'll see what kind of negotiations and tactics they can pull off to, you know, win quickly, and then, you know, again, maybe kick that can down the road a little bit to those big payouts later.
Well, they're definitely off to a good start with that dominant win over Cleveland. Here's the other one. You mentioned it when I brought you into the show. Christian McCaffrey at the last minute gets pulled from Monday Night Football. They're saying it's a calf / Achilles injury, and it's not looking like he's listed as day to day right now, but it's not looking likely that he's going to be playing this weekend either.
Yeah, I mean, especially that last second call of cut just a couple hours before kickoff, hour and a half before kickoff. That's when we found out he wasn't going to play. And yeah, I mean, it looks like it's going to be a week week by week thing, seeing how he's feeling. I think last night with that though, I think Jordan Mason, really showed that he could step up and. Even if McCaffrey does come back, he's not going to have to take every single rep like he has before. Maybe we can make that a 1-2 punch.
No, yeah, and I've got a little bit more on Mason as we go along, but he definitely looks like he gave the Niners a 1-2 punch, and it's like, man, as if the Niners needed another weapon to get into that offense. But yeah, Christian McCaffrey definitely one to watch. I know you as a fantasy owner, that one was a gut punch.
Oh man, yeah, trying to find a running back last second, it's impossible.
No, yeah, that's a hard one. That's a hard one, especially when he's probably the best running back in the league. That one's a hard one to overcome. Speaking of hard things to overcome, Jordan Love, MCL sprain in the Brazil game, in the final seconds of the game against the Eagles. That was a very bad looking injury. He's out 3 to 6 weeks. I'm not going to lie. I think this absolutely derails the Green Bay Packers.
I think so too. I think they were riding that momentum. I mean, all game they were looking great. I mean, he was making good plays. They were marching downfield. I think we talked over the weekend, and I agree with you that if he was still in that game, they still might have had a chance.
I very much think they would have had a chance with the big plays that they were making, with the fact that they were able to kind of score at will at times on the Eagles. They were just moving the ball down the field, and they were moving down the field on that drive. Like they were marching down the field on that drive. And I feel like with clock management being, LaFleur is not a bad clock manager, and neither is Jordan Love. I feel like they would have had a chance. And instead, you end up leaving it to Malik Willis, who I'm not gonna lie, he has not thrown a good pass in the NFL that I have seen. And now you're preparing him to start this weekend. I'm not going to lie, man, this could open up the Packers. If he's out 6 weeks, this could open up the Packers to starting 0-6. Like that, it does not look good.
Yeah, I know. I know there was reports of maybe, hey, we're going to try to bring somebody in because they weren't sure how hurt he was. I think with him only being out that questionable 3 to 6, they're going to run with it. And yeah, I agree. Like it could really put them down bad for just to try to dig out of a hole once he gets back in.
I mean, you had reports that Tannehill there might be some interest in a guy like Ryan Tannehill. I would definitely say he's an upgrade over Malik Willis, and because I've seen Malik Willis play for the Titans and it was not good. But definitely one to keep an eye on. I think the Packers are probably more or less hoping that this is going to be a 3-week thing instead of a 6-week thing. I'm going to err on the side of caution and be like, this might be more of a 6-week period for Jordan Love not playing in a Packers uniform.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's prepare for 6 and hope for 3. But
yeah,
I think if you're a Packers fan, it's what a tough way to start your season.
Definitely. Get to some game reactions. So we're moving on to some of the ones that we were talking about last week. We start with the opener, Chiefs Ravens, and wow, this one came down to the very last play of the game, and you talk about winning it by a toe. That is literally what happened with Isaiah Likely, one toe out of bounds, costing them a game-tying touchdown. I looked at this game, and if you saw my reactions, they got away from running Derrick Henry. He looked so dominant on that first drive. And that you're like, okay, that's what the Ravens are wanting to do. That's what you're wanting to see out of the Ravens. Mix it up with Lamar Jackson, mix it up with Derrick Henry, keep the other team guessing. And then if you can, start mixing in play action and getting it down the field so that way you can score kind of at will. They ran it 6 times on the first drive with Derrick Henry and then ran it 3 times the rest of the half.
Yeah, I think, I know Harbaugh, talked about it, I think today, how they want to try to mix that up more to where Henry's not getting all the carries, between him and Lamar, and but I think Hill. I think it's I think you got to use Henry more though. Your quarterback shouldn't have add more carries and more yards than Derrick Henry at times.
Mm-mm.
You should be shoving him down people's throats, and then have Lamar be that, hey, I'm coming and back behind you. You're not really sure which one's going to be running that, but yeah, to see most of his carries and most of his yardage came in that first drive and nothing after that, kind of worrisome.
I mean, he scored the first touchdown, Lamar Jackson was the rushing leader in that game. He had 122 yards on 16 carries. But you look at looking at the box score here. You look at what Derrick Henry did: 13 carries for 46 yards and a touchdown. He had 3.5 yards carry. So, sorry, you have the dog alarms in the background. But they almost split the carries evenly. So, that was what they wanted, and I think that's what they're going to be kind of looking for. Is okay. Can we get which one of these two guys is going to get going, and then we can ride the hot hand. So, I'm looking at what they could do, going forward. They play, I believe. Let me look at the. I know I got it on the ticker. I got it. Let's see where they're at. But they don't. The schedule doesn't get easier for them. They're a playoff team last year. Won the division. Okay, they got Vegas this week, so you may get to see them experiment a little bit more. With that running game, with what they want to do in that run game, and especially with the way Vegas played last week, this could be a definite bounce back game for the Ravens.
Yeah, I think so. I think I think we're really going to see, we're probably going to see Henry get the ball more, run down that field. But yeah, I think they're really going to show what they want to do against a team like Vegas, which I think would be a lot easier than they go to trying to fight that Chiefs defense.
The other big thing coming out of this game is, man, as if the Chiefs needed to get any scarier, Xavier Worthy. Holy crud. That run that he had was one of the fastest runs that I had seen in a while. He blew by people. And if that's what if that's what him and the Chiefs are going to be bringing to the table, open up the throttle, man, because it's going to be looking like it did when Mahomes and Tyreek first got together, where he's just going to have guys open way down the field, just burning people.
Yeah, I mean, talk about just pure speed. It was just incredible. Like this, got this kid coming out. We're gonna see what he's doing, and I mean, just took off. It was incredible to see this guy step up and make those plays.
Rushing touchdown, running touchdown. I mean, right now, for me, he's the front runner for Rookie of the Year, at least on the offensive side.
Yeah, absolutely. He made a statement, way to make a statement that first game. And be like, hey, I'm here to help this team win.
Speaking of statements, we're going to the Friday game, Packers and Eagles. This one was close kind of on the way through. You had two guys on each team making really big plays. Saquon Barkley, one heck of a debut with the Philadelphia Eagles. I mean, going for 3 touchdowns and kind of showing everyone what they thought he was capable of, which was just being an absolutely dominating back out of the backfield. He had 24 carries, 109 yards, two rushing touchdowns, and then he had a receiving touchdown as well. But so I know we mentioned Jordan Love earlier. What are your thoughts on Saquon Barkley?
I mean, Barkley he showed he showed the Giants organization of why you should have paid me and why you should have signed me, why I should still be there. And he showed his dominance of, hey, I'm going to get this done, and he just. I thought he was going to go for 4, there at the end, and it was his show,
Yeah, it was a Saquon Barkley show, but the other person that kind of stole the show was Jayden Reed of the Packers. He had 138 yards on 4 receptions, and then he had a rushing touchdown, went for 33 yards. He's creeping up over 150 total scrimmage yards in that game, and was looking like an absolute weapon for the Green Bay Packers right up until the Jordan Love injury. That was kind of what I was looking for on that drive right before Jordan Love got hurt. I was looking to see if they were going to go to Jayden Reed to hopefully break one down the field and get the win.
Yeah, I think with the game that he had, he definitely could have if Love had still been in there. I think that would have been where he would have gone and seen if he could have made something happen for sure.
Yeah, I mean, and if they can figure out the quarterback situation, you get it to somebody like Jaden Reed, and they'll make plays for you right up until Jordan Love comes back. But I mean, again, just devastating at the end of the game. The other thing too was that field. Wow, that field was just absolutely horrible. Guys were slipping all over the place and just could not seem to get their footing on that field.
I mean, that seems to be, especially when you have these teams that are, they have these places that they're trying to turn into, that are not typically NFL stadiums. They're trying to do that. But even we saw, during the Texans game in Indianapolis, we saw field issues. So I don't know if there's something overall, that needs to be looked at through the league to be like, hey, we gotta figure this out. With the issues, the past couple seasons with teams trying to change out cleats halfway
Mhm.
through games because the field's not to what it should be. I mean, you shouldn't have the field become that much of a factor in games.
No, I agree. I know, like with the Colts, and we'll get to the Texans Colts game here in a second. I know, like with the Texans Colts game, they were trying a new kind of like coconut husk, organic type turf. And a lot of people were saying, okay, the field maybe just needs to be broken in. But we've seen this with soccer fields for a while in the NFL where guys are just slipping all over the place and not really getting their footing. And a lot of people are saying, man, that's an ACL waiting to happen. Luckily, and I know it's still a big injury, but luckily, Jordan Love with the MCL strain, still a pretty significant injury, but nothing season ending coming out of that game.
Yeah, I think that's the best you can hope for when you have field conditions like that.
So moving on, we did mention the Texans and the Colts. My Texans do get the 29-27 win over the Indianapolis Colts. The story here for the Texans, and one that I've heard kind of all over Texans media all week, has been Joe Mixon. And the fact that the Texans had the 28th ranked rushing attack last year, and Joe Mixon goes out and puts up 30 carries for 159 yards. Texans with a running game, very dangerous.
Yeah, I mean, I think it showed that they're completing and becoming that well-rounded team of you have Stroud who's going to take advantage in the air, and you have give the ball to Mixon, he's going to take care of it on the ground. So I think they're really developing in just a well-rounded team, and they really showed that they had the guts to stick in there and make the big plays when they need to. Defense stepped up. Yeah, I
Mhm.
think the Texans look great. I think overall, all facets, they looked really good.
So what yeah, CJ Stroud. A lot of people said he had kind of a B game, and a B game for CJ Stroud is 24-32, 234 yards, 2 touchdowns, and a 115.9 rating. One thing I did want to kind of point out, if I was going to point out anything about what was going on with the Texans, is that offensive line and pass protection did let CJ Stroud get hit quite a bit. And I'm worried that they're going to handle they need to get it figured out, because I don't want to see the same problems they had last year where CJ's just back there running for his life. But the line did way better than they did last year. And this was a good thing to see the starting offensive line playing all together in a regular season game for the first time in a long time.
Yeah, I think if they get that O line tightened up and get things going, yeah, they're just going to be a machine to stop.
The other one was Nico Collins. Nico Collins, and of course, Stephon Diggs with the 2 touchdowns. But Nico Collins kind of took over that game as far as possession goes. He had 117 yards through the air. 117 yards on 6 catches and no touchdowns. But, man, he continues to put up big numbers against the Indianapolis Colts. Speaking of the Colts, so I'm going to say this, because I know a lot of people gushed over Anthony Richardson. I know a lot of people gushed over the big plays that he had. Look at his numbers. 9 and 19 for 9 and 19 for 212 yards, 2 touchdowns, and interception. If you take away the 3 big catches that he threw, or the 3 big throws that he had, he only completed 6 passes the entire game. Now, don't get me wrong. I know the Colts were running a little bit more, and he had 56 carries or 56 yards on 6 carries and a touchdown. But, man, you're not going to have success in a game, in any game, where outside of three big plays where guys have blown coverages, you're only completing 6 passes, and on top of that, you finish the game under 50% completion rate.
Yeah, I think so. I think that's that's going to be a tough one for him to overcome if he's not making those plays. If he's not really going to step up, then we're really going to see where he's at. But yeah, I think like you said, he had those three big plays that really kept him in there, that kept him in that game. But if you take those away, what do you got?
Yeah, and I mean the defense was kind of getting pushed around towards the end as well. Alec Pierce, of course, he was the recipient of a couple of those catches. He had a big game with 125 yards. Jonathan Taylor, the Texans did hold him in check. He was somebody that has run all over Houston before, but he couldn't get going. All in all, I think, and Colts fans might come after, Colts fans, I might get your feathers ruffled here a little bit. But all in all, like, I'm sitting here going, his performance wasn't really that special. He had 3 really big throws and a good run that kept them in this game. But other than that, the Texans shut him down.
Yeah, and if again, once they go, some of these, these really tight defenses come, we'll see where they're at. If he can't, if they have those guys who go, a couple plays where coverages aren't blown, man, who take advantage of that, you never know where that's going to lead you down the road for sure.
Yeah, and I know they have some opportunities there too. They do play Green Bay next week, so you might kind of see if you have Colts defense in your fantasy league, you might want to pick that one up. Moving on, so we go to the Cowboys and the Browns. This was one I think you and I both got burned on, and I'm not gonna lie, it's not the first time I've been burned by Deshaun Watson, but man, that was. Look, I mean, I can't explain. Well, I mean, I can, but it is mind blowing to see just how far off the cliff and how fast Deshaun Watson has fallen.
Yeah, I don't think there's. I mean, I think you've heard all the jokes, people making it. I mean, he's just not good. Just flat out, he was great. They spent all that money. He was solid in Houston. They spent all the money to get him, and then I mean, he hasn't done anything. They paid him all this money. He hasn't done anything.
I was looking at some of the all 22 film came out from that game, and it was just he looked like he was staring into space. There were some people that were talking about watching coaches talk to him on the sideline, and he just was checked out. And now that he's got more off the field stuff coming to light, that he's definitely somebody that it's gonna get, if he's not locked in or if his mind is somewhere else. Definitely, he's definitely not going to be the best on the field. I mean, you could say that for anybody, but for a guy like him, he's got to have everything in his world perfect for him to be what he was. And it just hasn't happened. It has not clicked for Cleveland. The thing now with these new allegations that are coming out, they're saying Cleveland possibly could void his contract. And I'm not going to lie, if I am a Cleveland Browns fan, I am shouting from every rooftop I can find for the Haslams to do that.
Yeah, I think so. I think it's we had our buy sell on the real Deshaun Watson last week, and I mean maybe maybe we should have bought. This is the real Deshaun. Like, this is it. Maybe we should have just bought into it and been happier with it, and because this is what he's gonna do. And yeah, I agree. I think if you can cut it and run and see what you can figure out. Again, you had a guy like Flacco. You saw anything, I don't know, but it can't be worse.
And you can't look, the excuses are over because, and I know some people or some apologists might go, well, Nick Chubb's not there. Well, dude, you didn't have Nick Chubb last season for several games that Watson was in, and then he got hurt. But I mean, you run out of excuses, and especially after a performance like that, you are definitely going to. It just magnifies that even more. And now you're going up against a Jaguars defense that isn't bad either, and you're gonna have to go out there and try to outduel Trevor Lawrence. If I'm Stefanski, like I'm really heavily considering going to Jameis Winston. He's got the team. He's got the locker room. He's looked well in preseason. He's played well in the past. The interception thing, but guess what? What quarterback doesn't throw interceptions? And I feel like Jameis has matured way more than Deshaun Watson has, and is just gives the Browns a better overall chance to win versus what Watson is right now.
Yeah, I agree. I think again, I think he's played 13 or so games, right?
Yeah.
With Cleveland, and he hasn't produced anything. Again, and it's like he's just not it. I think it's his time to cut bait and run and find a new fishing hole.
As far as the Cowboys go, they didn't look bad. They were efficient. They took advantage of a very bad Deshaun Watson. Held their own against the defense that was the number one defense in the league last year. And there were some times where Zeke Elliott got going. There were some times where they rode Rico Dowdle. CeeDee Lamb had a good game, even though there were some people saying maybe he looked a little rusty because he didn't really play a whole lot in training camp. Although he was the leading receiver in that game with 61 yards. But I'm looking at it. Dak didn't have the greatest game either. 19 of 32 for 179 and a touchdown. But it still looked way better than Watson did.
Dak took advantage of that. Again, what we thought was going to hold Cleveland in there against that defense, and he made him pay, and they gave a big plays, and he made it look like, oh, okay, we understand why you got paid.
Gotta give it to Zeke Elliott though. He comes back in his first game back in a Dallas uniform. He does average 4 yards a carry. So, and he had a touchdown. This running back by committee seems to be working out for the Cowboys right now, but it's going to get figured out at some point, I think.
I think so. I think they're trying to get it figured out, see who kind of gets hot going. And again, if you can rotate and if you can, who's hot right now, who's not, and figure that out and keep guys healthier that way, I'm not against that. I think my biggest complaint about this game is that McCarthy did not let Aubrey go for that 71-yard try. I was
gonna hit it.
He could have. I was like, he's got it. I think that's my biggest complaint about this game. I wanted to see 71 yards, and that crowd booed. That crowd was upset.
They wanted to see at least something exciting. They weren't getting it from their team. So So speaking of teams, we talked about it earlier. Your Jets are your 49ers. I'm not going to make that mistake again. Your 49ers just steamrolled the New York Jets, and Aaron Rodgers returned to the field. The craziest thing to me about this game was Rodgers didn't finish the game.
Nope. I'm not. Again, that's kind of his. That doesn't surprise me. Once they're out of it too far, it seems like he kind of just gives up on whatever he's doing. So I'm not super surprised that he didn't sit out. He didn't sit out that last. The back half of that last quarter, and I'm not surprised at all.
I don't know. See, some people say, oh, they were protecting him. They were trying to get. I don't know. That. If I'm Aaron Rodgers, especially when you pull it within, it got pulled within 13. He kind of got a late garbage time touchdown, but if he's the competitor everyone says he is, you want to stay in the whole game. Looking at Rodgers' stat line, 13 of 21, 167, a touchdown and an interception. Breece Hall, again, he had some tough sledding against that 49ers defense as well. But the
Lazard, though, he made Rodgers look good.
He did, and he made Tyrod Taylor look good as well. Allen Lazard had a good game. That one was kind of surprising because he was one of those wish list guys that Aaron Rodgers wanted to have. But the real story of this game was Jordan Mason coming in relief of Christian McCaffrey, who was ruled out, and boy did he take over this game.
Thank God we got Trent Williams up and going to help that line, to get that going. I think, what were they saying? He had played at one point. He was getting an IV because he had played 63 snaps, and you can't. Jordan Mason can't have that kind of game without the O line and Kittle and Juszczyk making those holes for him. making those big blocks, and he just took advantage. And he just ran it like his life depended on it. It was great.
Yeah, I mean, if he's not NFC Offensive Player of the Week, I don't know, man. Like that's a tough call. But I'm looking at, I mean, Brock Purdy had himself a really good game too. I mean, he did take the 2 sacks. His quarterback passer rating could have been a little bit higher, but I mean, all in all, just a rival for the San Francisco 49ers, especially after the heartbreak that the Super Bowl was.
Yeah, I think Brock looked good. When he needed to make the run and make those plays to extend it, he did. There were a couple of throws to Ayuk that were on that Ayuk just kind of didn't catch. And that has to go a lot into the late start due to contract dispute, contract issues, get him in there in the late rotation of things. But a couple of those, especially that one in the end zone, was a dime from that. Was perfect. So I think Brock looked really good. I think some of those passes, weren't on him, but otherwise he made the plays when he needed to. Man, I think to come off the loss in the Super Bowl, to have some of your key players injured or hold up with contracts, and to come in and show this kind of game. Don't get me wrong. I was like, this game started. I was like, it's going to be a rocky start, and we turned it up and didn't look back.
Speaking of Brandon Ayuk, I don't know if you saw the clip yet, but boy, Peyton Manning got into him on the Manning cast. After he missed that one in the end zone, he was like, "Dude, this is why you don't pull this kind of crap with the contract. You get into camp, you get the rust off, you get yourself going, and that way you can help your team. And contracts are contracts, but he ripped Brandon Ayuk after he missed that pass.
Yeah, I mean, I don't blame him. I mean, that was again, if that had been like he could have made, if he'd been a superstar and made that play, but again, Brock threw it perfect for him. No one else is going to catch that besides Ayuk. That's a ball you need to catch. You have to catch. Because you don't get a whole lot of those. You don't get a whole lot of those at all. So.
No, not really. So now we're going to go 3 up and 3 down for our week. We kind of got our up list on this one. First up, I'm going to go with the Miami Dolphins. They let the Jaguars get ahead, much to the delight of my oldest son. And but Miami came back to win on a last-second field goal after a pivotal Travis Etienne fumble. I believe it was going into the end zone. And Miami comes back, gets that last-second field goal. I believe they won 17-14 after all the drama that happened earlier in the day with Miami getting down like they did. Miami being able to come back and win that game was big.
Yeah, and I mean they need games like that. Again, the talk of last year was, they could beat a team that wasn't in the playoffs, but can they beat a team that was going? So I think a hard fought victory, where they had to scrape it at the last second to use all the tools they had to make that happen against the Jags. I think that's the kind of game they're going to have to get into a lot, especially in the AFC as they start playing these playoff teams. It's not going to be easy blowout wins. It's going to be those. We're going to have to scrape. We're going to have to keep every single play is going to be super important. But I think they showed that, hey, we're in there this time. We're in there this year. We're going to make these happen.
It's 20-17 on the score, my correction. But Tua had a day, 23-37, 338 yards. Tyreek Hill, again, after all the drama of the morning, 7 catches for 130 and a touchdown. I mean, Lawrence, again, there was questions about Trevor Lawrence too. He had another game where you kind of just go, man, he is not the golden boy.
Yeah, I mean, his so far, that transition, he just hasn't quite lived up to what everyone was expecting, what everyone was hoping for him, and it just wasn't happening. He made some plays. I think he made a couple in there, but nothing that's going to keep you. When you get the lead like that, to keep that lead. He really didn't show anything to help sustain that.
I will say this: compared to what the Jags have had the last decade, I'd still rather take Trevor Lawrence, and they're going to keep him around. He just got the big contract and everything. The rookie Brian Thomas, he had some good plays in that game as well, and he he's a guy that I think I'm going to kind of keep an eye on because I want to see how he shakes out. If he can turn into, in fact, he was the second leading receiver on that team. He had a touchdown in that game. The receivers for the Jags did kind of shake out, even though they didn't have like the dominant game of a Tyreek Hill or Jalen Waddle. But 3 catches for 62 yards for Gabe Davis, 4 catches for 47, and a touchdown for Brian Thomas. These are guys that I feel like if they can kind of gel and get better as the year goes on, maybe they do give Trevor Lawrence those kind of dominant receiver weapons that he has not had. I know they tried to get it last year was Calvin Ridley. But sometimes it's just best to get your own rookie, especially a rookie like Brian Thomas, who some people were saying could end up being a dominant receiver, and just let him develop.
Yeah, I think we're going to see if Trevor Lawrence can really gel with these guys and really they can build those cadences. Hey, I know where he's going to be, so I can just throw it out there. I know where he's, I can learn his rhythm. I know where he's going to step up, and I can make these big plays in tight coverages. So we can extend these plays and get us down the field.
Yeah, I mean they smell blood. They got to smell blood in the water this week with Green Bay, and get on that so that way they can kind of erase that week 1 loss. Next up, we got Joe Mixon, 30 carries, 159 yards with his new team behind an actual solid offensive line, unlike what he's kind of had in Cincinnati the last few years. Just an absolute dominant performance for one of the Texans' new additions.
Yeah, I think we mentioned it earlier, but I think he just showed that like, hey, this is why he's that their number 1 running back, and he's going to show that I'm still here. I want to help this team win, and man, I think he continues to have games like this every week. There's no.
I don't want 30 carries a week though. I really don't want 30 carries a week. Like you're looking at, all right, he's got 3,500 yards on 500 carries. His legs are burned to the nub. Like I don't want that. We, bring the carries down a little bit more, but for week 1, got to give you your flowers.
Yeah, exactly. I think he's in it for a good time there for sure.
So this week's top of the mountain, you're going to like that, of course. Jordan Mason, 28 carries, 147 yards and a touchdown. Man, if they can get him and Christian McCaffrey going in this offense, boy, look out for the Niners.
Yeah, I think it's a scary time right now because again, if you get, like you said, get McCaffrey going, get Mason going, you throw in Debo there too, again, Juszczyk as a fullback, like that ground game's scary, and when you're terrified of the ground game, that just opens up the pass game. So I think that it'll just be if we can get that rotation going, if we can keep him, really getting there, really keeping our offensive line making those plays, man, it's gonna be a tough time to stop.
It looks like it's starting to come together for San Francisco, and that's not a good thing for anyone in the NFC. Well, we went 3 up. We're gonna go 3 down. The first down is going to be the Cincinnati Bengals, man. I think they had a game that I felt like should have been a walk-off game for them. And maybe they took it that way. But between all the contract situations, Joe Burrow, is he healthy? Is he not healthy? Guys wanting to hold out. Are they going to play? Are they not going to play? It came crashing down for Cincinnati. You think with a team that has been around the top of the AFC like they have for the last few years, they'd just be able to overcome it. But, man, it just kind of shows those organizational issues will bleed out onto the field.
Yeah, I think so. I think having those, catching them, it just didn't seem like they could get anything really just going.
Mm-hmm.
It wouldn't seem like there was like anyone was connecting. Just seemed like everything was real off, and it was a bad showing. But the Patriots, with a new coach and a new regime and a new life there, and like, man, that's what a way for them to start off and kick it to a team that most people have, making the playoffs. So what a definitely an upset for sure.
And shout out to Gerard Mayo. He coached a really good game, and you got probably the most solid backup that has ever played in Jacoby Brissett out there. Stevenson had a good game. Bengals they looked like it. They went back to looking like that team that was lost. And if that's what we're going to get from Cincy this season, A, my pick for them to win the division has gone up in smoke. And B, it's going to be a long season in Cincinnati. Next down, I mean, I think this might be the first time I've had two an up and a down from the same team. But next down is Brandon Ayuk, man. Again, Peyton Manning just absolutely ripping him for what he did in the offseason for the whole contract situation. You had the report that San Francisco was in the process of trading him to Pittsburgh when he ran up and said he was going to sign the deal at the very last second. I'm not going to lie. I got real tired of this Brandon Ayuk contract thing during the offseason. I can only imagine how it was for you.
Yeah, I mean, it's is he not? What's going to happen? And then okay, fine. We go through the whole thing. We end up in the exact same spot we started. It's not like anything changed from the original offer. We're in the exact same spot that we started, and then because it took so long, you don't have those reps. You're not in there, and
You're rusty.
I mean, rusty. We should have had. We could have been up a couple scores from that, and it showed. Don't get me wrong. We still, we still, took advantage, and we still, made the best of it. But yeah, we could have. When you want to be that number one receiver, you want to be that guy, then you got to step up, and he just did.
Yeah, and that's the thing. I've never looked with the Niners. I've never looked at Ayuk as the number one on that team. I've always thought it was Debo, just because of everything that Debo could do. And the other thing too, it speaks to the depth of the Niners. Okay, you don't want to play ball. Well, guess what? We've got a bunch of other guys that are willing to step up into your spot and really do well. We saw that with CMC going down, and I mean, I'm not gonna lie. I think Ayuk, he's definitely, once he shakes the rust off, he's gonna be the Brandon Ayuk that we've always seen, and that we've seen, rack up fantasy points and actual points and yards and all that stuff. But I think this contract thing, it could hurt him for the next few weeks. As we get into the season here.
I think real quick on that. I think with Ayuk, for sure on the down is like, hey man, you were staying in that same rotation, last year, then you popped off, towards the end during the playoffs. You have a guy like Jennings who's making those plays that you couldn't, last night. So you got to be careful. In Shanahan's system, we will find, he will find those, he'll find those diamonds and shine them up, and you're not always guaranteed anything.
No, you're not. This week's Factory of Sadness, I mean, I think you can only pick for one of two people, but the most obvious choice is Daniel Jones, man. Boy, that was bad. I thought Watson was bad, and don't get me wrong, this was probably the toughest choice I've had for Factory of Sadness in the 2 weeks we've been doing it. But I mean, I think this would have been a tough choice in week 15. But Daniel Jones is going to make that conversation that you saw on Hard Knocks with the GM and the owner of the Giants and the big contract that they gave him just absolutely chap the ass of New York Giants fans.
Yeah, I mean, it's a wild situation, I mean, don't run Factory Sadness. This could have been Daniel Jones. It could have been the entire, team of Carolina. So, but yeah, I mean, for him to get this contract and to just play so poorly, it's just so sad.
Here's the thing: Daboll was calling plays, so this isn't on Mike Kafka. This isn't on lack of talent, because you did get a guy like Malik Nabers, and you have added a few pieces. You got a guy like Devin Singletary who had a good year last year. This is going to be a long year for I'm not going to lie. I think the Giants are going to be finding a way out of that contract with the number one quarterback next year in the draft if they keep this pace up.
Yeah, I mean, right now it's a race to the number one pick. It looks like, and both, it looks like they're trying to get off the blocks real quick, and it's not looking good for sure. It was a sad sight.
Yeah, oh yeah, it was bad. So next up, we're going to do buy or sell. We're going to give it a little twist this week. But before we get into buy or sell, want to take time to say, guys, go ahead, like, share, subscribe, get the word out. Let's get the followers up. We've had some great views on the show over on Facebook, over on Twitter, or not Twitter, on Twitch, over on YouTube. So We've been getting some good results, but keep getting the word out, guys. Keep hitting that like, share, subscribe. Let's grow the show. Let's get out there and let's get some fun. Let's get some real fun going. Also, again, thank you to my sponsor, the Phone Medic of Amarillo, Canyon, and Lubbock. Guys, if you need any kind of tech repair, if you need new gaming console, new gaming PC, a phone, tablet, laptop repaired, go hit up Gabe at the Phone Medic. Tell him Ryan from the Extra Point sent you. So again, buy or sell, we're going to put a little twist on it. So I've offered up a buy. I've offered up a buy or sell question. Andy's offered up a buy or sell question. We're going to respond to both of them. And I would love to hear in the comments to see what you guys think of some of these too. So first up, double buy or sell. I'm going to say Buffalo should worry. And then Andy's is, can Miami beat a playoff team? Which one are you buying? Which one are you selling?
I think I'm going to sell on Buffalo should worry. I think, I don't know. It's hard. Because don't be wrong.
That's the point of it, man. I wanted to make it hard for you.
Don't be wrong. It's they shouldn't have. They shouldn't have had to come back the way they did. And I think it's also shows Arizona's just decide not to care that back half being up. What was it? 21-3, 17-3, something like that.
Yeah, it was 17-3. Arizona jumped out to a 17-3 lead on Buffalo, and the way I was looking at it, man, they just got gassed. The Buffalo just had more in the tank than they did. They just kind of played themselves out of this game. I'm looking at James Conner had 16 carries for 50 yards. Kyler Murray had 5 for 57. He also had a passing touchdown. You didn't really get much out of the receivers. Of course, the big one is the wide open Marvin Harrison Jr. that would have given you the game-winning touchdown. Still a lot to work on in Arizona, but I did not expect them going into Buffalo and putting it on the Bills like that before they just ran out of gas. So I'm going to buy that Buffalo should worry.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a good thing. That's not a bad idea. I mean, I think if their defense can't hold up, again, what's going to happen? You have the chance. What happens every year is that it becomes, Josh Allen decides, hey, I'm going to put it on my shoulders, and I'm going to, run it in every play. And by week 10, he's about halfway dead, trying to crawl himself in the end zone, and you wonder why you can't make the playoff run because he can't. It's just too much.
I mean, Allen did have 4 total touchdowns in this game. He had 2 passing touchdowns and 2 rushing touchdowns in that comeback. I'm going to buy Miami can beat a playoff team. They showed the ability. They also got down big and showed the ability to come back and win a game that it looked like they were kind of getting dominated in early on.
Yeah, I think I'm going to buy too. I think they can. I think this game is going to show that. With the complete, what happened last season, not being able to beat those tough teams. I think they're really going to take that and motivate them to, hey, we have to. If we can't beat those playoff teams, then what's the point?
Because this Thursday game is going to be a big game as far as the division. I think it's going to be it's a good test for Miami. Jacksonville I feel like was a good test too. This is like an actual this is going to be a measuring stick game for the Dolphins if they can hang with the playoff teams and the top teams that are expected to go far in the playoffs this year.
Yeah, absolutely.
So next up, we kind of had one that we were going through. I was asking Andy earlier. I was like, okay, do you have any buy or sell topics? And Andy just put Baker Mayfield. I went, all right. Well, my buy or sell is Watson's going to get benched this season. Andy's is Baker Mayfield a top quarterback. So I'll go first on this one. I'm going to buy. I think Watson does get benched, but I think it's going to be kind of done kicking and screaming into it. Again, I feel like it's going to take the team threatening to turn on Kevin Stefanski, and this season really going into a tailspin. Because if you watched in the preseason, the Browns like to put out some videos where it looked like the team was really rallying around Jameis Winston, even with his kooky ass pregame speeches, they were really rallying around Jameis Winston. And I feel like, it's going to come to a point where they're going to have to be like, you know what, we may just have to eat the money. Now, especially if they're able to void Deshaun Watson's contract, that's going to turn everything upside down. But I feel like at some point, Deshaun Watson's going to get benched.
Yeah, I buy that too. I think he has to. I think it's even just by pure playing. I don't think if he continues to play like he did this week, they're going to have no choice. But again, with everything else surrounding him, that is probably going to knock him off his game. I just don't see how he doesn't get benched, honestly.
Yeah, and so the other one, for those of you who were wondering when we were going to get around to Baker Mayfield, buying Baker Mayfield as a top quarterback, I'm going to sell it because when I think top quarterback, I'm thinking top 5. I'm thinking he's in that CJ Stroud, Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes, even Jared Goff after this past weekend. That type of category where he's just able to completely take over a game. He had a good game against a bad Washington team. They get the real test this week because they got Detroit coming, or they're going to Detroit. And I think Baker has the potential to really be a quarterback that is going to keep this team strong and keep it relevant. But I'm not sure he can continue this kind of success.
I'm going to put my money on. I'm going to try to buy this. I'm going to put some stock into it and see if Baker can. I think how things ended, and then now he's come over to Tampa, and this turnaround for him, and he's really put this team on his back, and he's taken it. Again, I agree. It wasn't like he played the best team out there, but man, I think he threw for 4 touchdowns.
Looking at it right now, Baker Mayfield, 24, 30, 289 yards, 4 touchdowns. He did have him and Chris Godwin had some really good plays. Mike Evans has some really good plays. And look, I'm a Baker Mayfield guy. Like I felt like he got done wrong in Cleveland. And Cleveland really had a chance with Baker. They just let the shiny object distract him. But I'm not going to lie, I really am behind the Baker Mayfield revenge tour. But I think with some of the quarterbacks that he's got to face in the NFC, especially because they're playing a first place schedule, even though they have won it the last 3 years, I think he's going to be good. I think he's going to be above average. But he's not. I think he's just going to be right just below that top quarterback tier.
I can see that. I think, like you said, I think this week against the Lions is going to be it's going to be a show. There's going to be a show of how if we want to hit that next tier of quarterback, that's going to be a good show for him.
So this one we kind of brought together. Again, I asked Andy, he was like, okay, what's your buy or sell topics? We both said Caleb Williams. So my question on this one, buy or sell, did we overhype Caleb Williams?
I am going to sell.
Okay.
I don't think you overhyped. I think I was looking today, of the last, I think since 2001, although he didn't contribute much to the win, his team, he is the first starting quarterback, number 1 taking quarterback to win his debut. So, I think I don't wrong. That first game in there, it's a brutal. Thank God for defensive special teams. He should buy, with whatever bonus he got, everyone's getting something extra for keeping him in that game. But I think, let that first game go. Let's see how game 2 pans out.
I think he hit on less than 50% of his passes. He didn't even break 100 yards passing. This was all on the defense, creating turnovers and making Will Levis's life a living hell, which I love to see that. Anytime the Titans are miserable, I'm happy. But I'm going to buy this just a little bit because, and don't get me wrong, I was sitting here going, man, if Caleb Williams is as advertised and with these weapons that the Bears have, boy, they could be this team could be really dangerous. But this is why when everyone was picking the Bears to really to even win the division, and don't get me wrong, there's an opening for the Bears now that Jordan Love is out. They could really, if they wanted to, they could really move up. Although I think it's going to be the Vikings that might do that. But this is kind of why I was like, okay, I could see the Bears at best case scenario going 7-10, because not a lot of times do you get those number one quarterbacks that are just over, just everything they're advertised to be and what they're going to be for this franchise. Now, don't get me wrong. I think as the season goes on, he's going to get better, and he's going to mature, and the game is going to slow down for him. But it's not going to be this week because he's facing, his defense is not facing Mayo hands, and they're not facing just kind of an out of sorts Titans team. They're facing probably what's one of the best offenses in the league, probably what's going to be one of the best defenses in the league, and it's going to be a real kind of test, and it's in prime time. So
and Sunday night too, and that's talk about pressure for a rookie quarterback.
Yeah. So that's what I'm saying. I'm happy we got him early, because if he does grow into the quarterback that everyone thinks he is, we don't have to face him for a while, especially with all those weapons. And I think he'll grow into it, but I think we did overhype him just a little bit. So that does it for buy or sell. We're going to get into our game previews, game lines brought to you by ESPN Bet. Remember, guys, gamble responsibly if you are going to bet on these games this weekend. So we start with our Thursday night game. Buffalo goes to Miami. Miami is a 2.5-point favorite, which is, out of the games that I picked this week, this is the closest spread. Again, Miami, with both these teams had comeback victories last week. Both of these teams are playoff teams. Man, what are you looking for in this game?
I'm looking for Buffalo's defense to figure out how to stop Hill, to stop that dynamic offense that Miami has. If they can kind of contain that, then they have a good chance. Otherwise, if Miami starts to take off down the road, it's just going to try to be a repeat of the Arizona game, and I don't know if Miami is going to be able to run out of gas as easily as.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that. That's exactly what I was about to say. I'm looking at this Bills team, and they kind of did what the Ravens did against the Chiefs, where it's like, all right, Josh Allen, go make a play. And you can't do that against a team that's like this. Buffalo looks like they got the defense shored up a little bit. They didn't let Jacksonville get the score up on them. They are still just as high octane as ever. Tua looks as sharp as ever. And Buffalo doesn't have their number one receiver, which you feel like if they would have had a dominant receiver like a Stephon Diggs, maybe they shut that Arizona game down a little bit early and you don't have to rely on Josh Allen so much. And yeah, if Miami gets ahead, I can see them running away with this because they're not going to run out of gas. Okay, Jalen Waddle's tired, let's go to Tyreek. Okay, if Tyreek's tired, let's go to OBJ. If those guys are tired, let's go to Mostert. Let's go to Achane. And it's so much talent on one side of the ball, and the defense got better. So, I mean, if we get to our picks, you picked the Bills, I got the Dolphins. I think this is our first disagreement on picks and the extra point. We had a unanimous. We were standing in unity last week, man. But I've got the Dolphins in this one.
Yeah, like I said, with the Bills, I think if their defense can hold, we've really seen that if you can contain the dynamics of the Dolphins, then you can really play your game and make them play your game and control that rhythm. If they get off, though, man, it's gone. But hopefully, Buffalo can really, with that comeback, boost morale, get that defense, solid up.
So with me, I think if they do turn it into hey, Josh Allen has to save everyone's ass. Miami, Miami can just go, okay, we'll go down and score again. I think if this turns into a shootout, Miami's got it because Buffalo does not have the receivers to keep up with the Miami Dolphins. And you're talking about a Miami team that I believe was the number one overall offense last year. So they have the ability to score from whenever they want, from wherever they want. And Buffalo, I just don't feel like they have that ability yet. I see the Dolphins winning at home, and then we'll see what happens later on in the year when it gets cold in Buffalo. So next game, we mentioned this earlier. Tampa goes to Detroit. Detroit opens as 7-point favorites at home. And man, I'm not going to lie, it looked like Stafford was having some major issues communicating with the Rams last week against the Lions. And, again, this is the real test for Baker Mayfield and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. If what he did if what he did on Sunday was for real, then we're in for a hell of a game.
Yeah, I think so. Again, it's a time to to be excited if you're Detroit. I think this week they showed that, hey, we were down, they were able to tie it, and then just one drive, march it down the field, and make it happen for them. But yeah, if Baker, like I said, if Baker's really going to step up, if he's going to be a top quarterback to prove that, this is the game to do that. Because again, the Lions are a hard-nosed team, man. They believe in that Dan Campbell football, and it's going to be a fight to the end. They're not going to give it to you.
No, they're not. And I mean, like, these are the games. If Tampa wants to be considered a legit threat in the playoffs, these are the games that they're going to have to win. I mean, Detroit went to the NFC Championship game last year. They were maybe a quarter away from winning that game and going to the Super Bowl. They're Super Bowl favorites this year. You have to beat these teams if you want to be considered a threat in the NFC. Do we think that's going to happen? No, we don't. I mean, no, I like the Lions in this game. They're just way too talented. The defense looks like they got way better. And the ability to just run it down your throat the way that they did to the Rams, that's scary, man.
Yeah, I mean, right now they have, they just got all this momentum. Everyone's behind them. It's just hard to bet against them. They've shown that they can get gritty. They don't mind having a shootout. They're gonna make it happen.
Yeah, no, yeah, and the Lions are gonna find a way to win. Going on this, so I'm actually gonna be at this game. I'm gonna be there with Fox this weekend. The 1-0 New Orleans Saints come into Dallas as 6.5-point underdogs to face the Cowboys, who just kind of steamrolled the Browns last week. Now, the New Orleans did more than steamroll the Carolina Panthers, although I don't think that's going to take much effort this year. But, a lot of people were saying, hey, Derek Carr looked really good. Chris Olave looked really good. The Saints got new pieces on the defensive line. They are still a very physical pass defense. I feel like this is a good test for the Dallas Cowboys, especially at home.
Yeah, I think this is going to be a good test for both teams. Obviously, playing Carolina is not really that's not pushing you at all.
No.
You're not going to get a good barometer of where you're at. I think with a Dallas team like this, I think it's going to show New Orleans of where they can be. But again, it's hard to go into Arlington, and it's real hard to go into Arlington and get it, especially for the first home game. And that's not a great place to be if you're the New Orleans Saints.
That place is going to be insane when the Saints do come marching in. I had to do it.
I like it.
But this is another one we're split on. See, I like the Saints defense to kind of frustrate the Cowboys and make Dak Prescott make some turnovers. The last time the Cowboys even went up against a kind of, I want to say, middle of the road defense in Green Bay, they got absolutely run over. And Derek Carr does usually start his season off very well. This isn't a team that is as disjointed as the Cleveland Browns, where they're a little bit more put together. I've got the Saints coming in, and the Cowboys do kind of like to drop games like this early in the season. You look at what happened with Arizona last year. I think this is a time where the Cowboys drop a game that they're not necessarily supposed to drop.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised. You can't wouldn't expect less from the Cowboys. But I think with everything they showed, against Cleveland, against what we thought that a solid defense was supposed to be, I think it's going to be a good showing for them. Lamb getting back in there, for the second game. If they get Elliott going, like it's going to be a pretty dominant. I feel like it's going to be a pretty dominant side on the Cowboys if they can make sure they keep it up on the defense side.
Yeah, and I mean they are. This one I feel like is going to be a defensive game, unless Prescott and Lamb can really get going. I feel like this is going to be one of those gritty, hard hit. I don't know if it's going to be a high scoring game because the Saints defense, at least compared to last week, look like they're much better than the Browns were. Moving on to Sunday Night Football, the Bears go to the Texans as 6.5-point underdogs. Chicago brings a really good defense, or at least a defense that looked really good against the Titans, against a Houston offense that might be one of the most balanced offenses in the league, and a Bears offense that really did not look good against the Texans defense that does have some killers on it. And of course, it's the home opener for Houston. It's always loud in NRG. And you've got, again, class of the AFC is what people are looking like. Some people are saying, man, Houston really looked like a Super Bowl contender coming off of week 1. But the Bears, again, Caleb Williams, first time in prime time.
Yeah, I think for your second game, to be in prime time, to be on the road, you didn't have an excellent showing in your first game. You're going against a rock solid defense. You just better hope that maybe your defense and your special teams can save the day. But yeah, it's going to be a tough one for Caleb Williams for sure.
I think this is the game where Caleb. I think if last week wasn't it because Caleb Williams didn't have any touchdowns, but he didn't have any interceptions either. If there's going to be a welcome to the NFL game, I feel like this might be it. This might be because the Bears don't have a great offensive line either. They don't have a great offensive line. And you've got Danielle Hunter and Will Anderson on the other side. And it could – I don't like predicting blowouts because I usually will get upset by them. But I could see this game becoming a blowout.
Yeah, it could get out of hand real quick. It could be because of Chicago's offensive mistakes. It could just be that Houston takes advantage of those, and if they get to Caleb Williams a lot, man, that's a tough start for you. It's not going to be a good time.
So I think we're in agreement. The Texans are going to win this one. We both got the Texans for our picks on this one. So we move on to Monday Night Football. The Atlanta Falcons go to the Link. The returning Philadelphia Eagles. This is the only 0-1 team I had on our game previews this week. Philly is a 6.5-point favorite against Atlanta. Kirk Cousins, man, that was not a great debut for the Atlanta Falcons.
Yeah, if you're an Atlanta fan, that's not what you want to see. You want to see this guy that you paid, a bunch of money to. I know him and Rodgers had the same kind of injury, and it's both looking pretty slow. Not looking, definitely not. They're definitely both older. And you can just see in Cousins that it just wasn't something was off. He just couldn't get him going. It just didn't seem coming back from that injury. Just didn't seem like he was, doing too hot.
One of the things, so somebody was on Twitter today, or X, whatever you want to call it, but they were showing that they showed the all 22 of every throw of Kirk Cousins. And it looked like he was not planting on the foot, planning on the leg. He wasn't planting right on the leg that had the Achilles tear. Much like we saw with Rodgers last night, he wasn't really moving the way that you thought he should be moving with an injury like that. And I get it, his first game back. You definitely are going to be kind of favoring the leg until you can trust it a little bit. But how long are the Falcons going to wait on that, especially when you have a top 10 first round pick waiting in the wings?
Yeah, I think if Cousins has the kind of game he had against Pittsburgh, I think we will see him a lot sooner than we expected. I think a lot of us were thinking like, okay, maybe after this year, he gets to learn from a veteran quarterback. He gets to get those reps in. He could get that experience that great quarterbacks get. These great quarterbacks get to sit behind a guy for a year or two, and then they get to develop. But maybe if Cousins continues to falter, you might have to throw him in there a lot sooner.
Yeah. Or if the knee injury starts flaring up and gets worse and starts being a little bit more problematic than we thought it would be. Yeah. So I guess we both got the Eagles in this game. We talked, we had a lot of focus on the Falcons, but man, the Eagles with Saquon Barkley. Boy, that's what we're gonna get out of them. Holy crap!
Yeah, I know a lot of people were giving Jalen Hurts a little some grief in that game. Had those really just some bad calls and those throws, but I mean he still led them downfield a lot, and they still he still got a ton of yardage and got points up there. So Philly at home, it's it's not a place you want to be. I think we kind of saw a little bit with Jalen and his new center since Kelsey's retired. We had some miscommunications that way. So
They
I
couldn't
think
get
we're
the
still
push that
yeah, I think we're still going to figure out. We're going to figure out that how we get that offensive line kind of gelled up. But yeah, when you have Saquon in the backfield, it makes it a lot easier.
Oh, by the way, we're done with the game pricks. Just got a pop up. We only had about 12 illegal procedure calls during the course of this show. So I mean, I guess is that right around the league average per game? Those illegal procedures were getting on my nerves these last last couple games. So that's it for game previews. Right now we're gonna go to the extra picks. These are a little extra incentives that I'm picking out. If you want to take a bet on them, go ahead. Don't blame me if you lose, though. These are just little ones that I say maybe you want to watch out for. Yeah, especially because I went 0-3 last week. Actually, no, wait. I have to look. I don't think I went 0. I think I went 0-3 last week. These ones might be a little bit safer. I almost hit on one though. If Aaron Rodgers would have had one more interception, I would have hit on one. But CJ Stroud 2+ interceptions. I feel like that's a pretty safe bet this week. Oh, yeah. Touchdowns. 2+ touchdowns. Not interception. I don't want interception. I want touchdowns from CJ Stroud.
Yeah, I think that's a pretty solid. That's a solid.
So, the other one, Breece Hall 2+ touchdowns. I feel like the run game could get going for the Jets to prop up Aaron Rodgers until he gets going. But I think Breece Hall could give you 2 touchdowns this week.
They're playing Tennessee, right?
Let me look because I feel like if that is the case, you're talking about you're talking about interceptions and Tennessee. Let me see. I've got last week pulled up. You're talking about turnovers. Yeah, New York at Tennessee. If the defense can hold up, you're talking about turnovers. You're talking about short yard situations. You're talking about Breece Hall at the goal line or in the red zone a lot. So, I mean, 2+ touchdowns is a good one.
I think so.
I know I picked him to lose, but I've got Dak Prescott. He could go for 300 yards, depending on if the Saints defense is not a mirage. Dak Prescott for 300 yards. I think that's attainable for him this week.
Yeah, I think so. I think especially at home, him slinging that football down the field would be surprising to anybody.
Yes, so that's going to do it for this week, guys. Week 2 gets started on Thursday night. Bills at Dolphins, guys. Enjoy week 2. Going to be a hectic week for me. I'm going to be running around the Cowboys game all weekend long, but be a lookout for me if I do make it on camera and don't get hit in the face with a football or something. Andy, man, how excited are you for week 2?
Man, week 1 was wild. I think we saw some surprises that we weren't expecting. I think I think we're going to see some more. I think we kind of saw it. We did have the kickoff return.
Yes,
we did have the one kickoff return. I think we might see more of that. I think I know in the 49er game, I think we definitely had more of the Jets try to run that back. So I think as teams start to figure out and as kickers start to really plant that ball on that 5-yard line, push them back as far as you can without the touchback and that 30-yard going to the 30. I think we're going to start to see this played more strategically.
I think we are too.
I know the statistics were up. I think I saw something they were up from like 23% to 36-ish. I think, so it's moving in the direction that the league is looking for. So I think, we'll see how this continues to work out.
Yeah, I'm excited to see what the dynamic kickoff looks like in person.
So absolutely.
That happens. That's going to be interesting to see. So, but that's going to do it for us, guys. The Extra Point again next Tuesday, 8:30. Guys, have fun with week 2. If it's anything like week 1, it's going to be a lot of fun. So, but until then, guys, thank you for joining us. Shout out to my sponsors, the Phone Medic of Amarillo Canyon and Lubbock. Guys, make sure again to hit the like, share, and subscribe button. We'll see you guys next Tuesday. Until then, goodbye and good night.